Dear Mama, let all the myths of motherhood crumble at your feet. Dig motherhood out from under the rock of sacrifice. Look at your children and be willing to be a student, be willing to receive. See them as path makers and pathfinders. It is work. It takes presence. It takes an open heart and a willing soul. All the things white supremacy is built to beat out of us. The truth is, if we are committed to building the promised land outside of us by dismantling systemic and institutional oppression, then we've got to be willing to build a promised land within us. This is not to say that motherhood is easy, that it's not frustrating and exhausting, but it ain't the thing that's killing us. White supremacy is. This is our prayer for every Black mother. This is our declaration for Black Mama Creative Week. Motherhood is not the graveyard of dreams. We're so excited to be joined in this episode by one of our patrons, Donna Janine, and National Book Award nominee, Margaret Wilkerson Sexton. Thank you for supporting us this week. If you missed any of our Facebook Lives, you can still check them out on our Facebook page, and we will have all of our live videos up on YouTube by Tuesday, July 2nd. We will also have our Sacral Work webinar available for purchase as well. Please be sure to tag us and use the hashtag Black Mama Creative, Black Mama Creative Week, BMCW19. And let us know how you felt about the week by emailing us, DMing us, and engaging with us through social media comments. Please keep sharing us. You made this week happen. You made this week live. You made this week fun and engaging. Thank you so much. We sincerely appreciate it. If you only share this with one other person who you feel can be inspired, we are so grateful. If you're a new listener, welcome to the ride. Invest in us by becoming a DBM patron, buying merchandise, or giving a one-time donation. Now, let's get free, y'all. Let's get healed. Let's get creative and jump into part 1 of episode 25 of
Dim Black Mamas.
Welcome back to the ride. I'm Crystal Tennille Irby, mother of 4, 3 boys and 1 girl. God, dear God, it's like I had a drink, right? Okay.
I'm Thea Mounier, mother of 3 girls.
And I am Nikisha Killings, mother of 3 girls and 1 on the way.
Oh, you finally said it. I'm so proud of you.
Y'all made me say 4 girls last month. This ain't new.
Right, I know, but I'm just saying, it had been an issue. That's all I'm saying. It had been an issue. And today is a very, very special episode. We have some very special guests with us. This episode is about Black Mama Creatives because this is Black Mama Creative Week, produced and founded by Dim Black Mamas. So our show lineup is a little different today. We are going to talk briefly about Black Mama Creative Week, and then we're going to jump into the mac and cheese segment of the show. We created Black Mama Creative Week because one of our most popular episodes is entitled Black Mama Creative. And we got a lot of feedback from our listeners. They really, really enjoyed the episode. And a lot of them had questions and stories about being a Black Mama Creative and how do you balance motherhood and following your creative dreams, or when do you find time to create, and childcare issues. So we really wanted to focus on that because we feel like motherhood is not the graveyard of dreams, and we don't want motherhood to be a space where your dreams go to die, because it's important for your children to see you following your dreams and pursuing their dreams, especially if you're telling them to follow their dreams. So we thought it would be a great idea to have a week filled with digital events with Black mama creatives that we love and that we admire and have a great deal of respect for. So we will be posting all of our our live interviews on Facebook and Instagram. We'll be posting those on our YouTube channel. So if you missed any of those, you can go to our YouTube channel and take a look at them, and make sure that you are subscribing wherever you listen. Don't just listen. Make sure that you are also subscribing. You can find our podcast everywhere that podcasts are. So if you're listening right now, you can just hit the subscribe button, and make sure that you share the episode with at least one person who you feel can be inspired by the episode. And follow us on social media, across all social media platforms at Dim Black Mamas. And so that's it for my little church announcement section. We can dig right on in. Our first guest is a very, very special guest. She's one of our patrons from our Patreon community, and we're very, very excited to have her on. For Black Mama Creative Week, we decided to host a virtual live show for members of our Patreon community so they could be on the recording with us and see what we do, see how a recording takes place, what happens sort of behind the scenes of Dim Black Mamas. And so she came on with us today. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, good morning. I appreciate y'all having me on. My name is Donna Green. I am the mother to one little son. He will be 2 in August.
Thanks for joining us, and welcome to the Ride Girl. And so we are super, super duper excited to have this Black Mama Creative joining us for Black Mama Creative Week. We were so excited when she said yes to us. She has some very exciting things going on, and she is, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Margaret Wilkerson Sexton, and I have 3 children.
Oh, you have 3 kids? I thought you had 2. Oh, you have 3. Okay.
I have 5-year-old twins, and then I have a 2-year-old.
Oh,
Ooh, bless you.
ooh.
Wait a minute.
That just made this bio that I'm going to read even more amazing.
Right, because y'all gonna see she's been dropping book after book and project after project with babies.
You have twins and you're on your 2nd book. I just need to...
No, comparison kills joy.
Right.
Comparison kills joy.
I like that. I need to use it.
Comparison kills joy. Okay, so here we go. Okay, about Margaret Wilkerson Sexton, born and raised in New Orleans. You know, I am big on shouting out where we were born and raised, because I claim Inglewood every day, but this is not about me. Studied creative writing at Dartmouth College and law at UC Berkeley. Her debut novel, A Kind of Freedom, was a 2017 National Book Award nominee, a New York Times Notable Book of 2017, and a New York Times Book Review Editor's Choice. Her work has been published in the New York Times Book Review, Oprah.com, Lenny Letter, the Massachusetts Review, Gray Sparrow Journal, and other publications. She lives in the Yay area, we think Yay, California with her family. Her forthcoming book, The Revisioners, due out in November, explores the depths of women's relationships, powerful women and marginalized women, healers and survivors. It is a novel about the bonds between a mother and a child, the dangers that upend those bonds. At its core, The Revisioners ponders generational legacies, the endurance of hope, and the undying promise of freedom. That sounds so good. Coming out in November.
Yes.
And I just want to say New Orleans is like my favorite city. Whenever I always tell people that it's intoxicating. That's the only way that I can describe it. I mean, things happen in New Orleans that probably wouldn't happen anywhere else.
You know what? When she gets those little eyes, I knew you were going to drift off of that. She's not gonna. There's stories that go with that. She gets those Charlie Brown eyes. You know, when their eyes are just dots. Yeah. You see it now. You can see it, Donna. You see what we're talking about when we reference.
Was I not right? Is it not an intoxicating city?
No, that's how it is.
So, but you go back into a memory.
It's like, cause I'm telling you, I went. I've gone one time, and it was in. It was 98. I was there for New Year's. It's an amazing city.
It's like on a different wavelength. I was just
talking
about this last night because I'm going through this stuff with my dad's estate, and my husband was saying everything is so slow, it's taking too long, and I was like, yeah, it is, and that irritates me too. But I felt like my husband's a white male, And I felt like, you're putting your white male lens on this very cultural city.
Mm-hmm.
And, we have to appreciate that that's not where it is, and that's not where it should, they just move at a different pace.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to judge it. It's just what it is. It's just different.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's almost, it feels to me like it's just a different country. When I go there, I'm like,
it is.
so insulated from the rest of the country,
It's insulated from the rest of the state. Like it's very different from from the rest of the state. It's a different thing, man. It's just my absolute favorite city. I love it.
I always have a feeling, have an energy when I land in New Orleans. It's different. It's nothing like I've ever felt in any other city, but it feels like it's shifted since Katrina.
It definitely has.
Do natives feel that? Do you feel that when you go home?
Yeah, for sure. Oh,
Margaret?
Absolutely. It's a different city. I mean, I was just trying to think of a way to talk about it, like specifically, but I mean, there's so many transplants there now, and some of them have done great work, but it does change the nature of the place.
And the culture. When I think about New Orleans, I think the way I think of it is, even though we definitely know there was slavery there too, in Louisiana and all the places, I feel like it was the least colonized place, if I can say that, because I feel like one of the exceptions that I found there is like, I always say when slaves were given, or enslaved people were given Sundays off to go to church, right? Like, why would they ever give us? They never gave us no other time off. So that was a part of the colonizing process. But in New Orleans, they didn't tell you what kind of church you had to go to. People could practice their practice during that Sunday morning. And so it's like it's the only place I know of that was allowed.
I haven't been since Katrina.
I have.
You gotta go.
I'm not sure I want to, because I think I want to, not that I don't, I think I'm afraid. I think I'm afraid of.
It's different.
Yeah.
Different.
That I'll feel that difference. I've never experienced any other city like that. And so I think I'm afraid of that. Yeah.
I hear you. I think there are some pockets you can still go to that feel like they've been preserved from pre-Katrina New Orleans. And if you could find those when you go, then you'll still feel that way.
So we're going to jump into some questions. Your work is centered on Southern Black people. What do you feel is missing from the narrative about Southern Black women?
That's a really good question. I don't think anything is missing. I just think we need more of it. I wish that there was so much work out there that I didn't feel a need to represent every time I'm writing. I wish that I could just feel comfortable, like, this is the sliver of the field of my life that I'm going to work about, or the field of an experience I want to explore, that I want to write about. And that's it. I don't have to worry about what is it doing for the Black community. Are people going to read this wrong and think that I feel this way about the Black community? I wish that, like my friend, I was talking to a friend yesterday who's a white woman, and I told her I was really worried about the revisioners at first, as I was with the Kind of Freedom, because I wanted to make sure to get the issues right, because the issues I'm writing about are so important in society, right? I want to make sure I represent them carefully, and they're so controversial and charged. She was like, I've never felt that way. And she was just being honest. I've never felt like that. And I guess that's because, I'm white and I don't feel that responsibility. There's this debate going on now, like, is it okay to explore Black pain in art, right? Or has there been enough of that? Do we need to now just focus on the ways in which we're ordinary people in our art, instead of like exploring slavery again and again, or exploring, Reconstruction again and again? Can we just talk about how, we went to the grocery store and we raised our kids and we're doing what everybody else is doing? And there are a lot of people who are talking about that now. And I just wish that we didn't have to have that conversation, because everyone is called to write about a different part of the experience. And there should be room for all of that. The problem is that publishers tend to pick one side of it that they want to hyper produce.
Yeah.
And so that's the side we're seeing, and you feel inundated by it. But it's like, if all areas were represented in the publishing world, we wouldn't have that problem.
I also feel though that we're very judgmental of the work ourselves. Like, I'm a theater person. I go see all kinds of theater. Yeah. From Tyler Perry to Broadway shows. Like, I go see all kinds of theater, and because I feel like you can learn something and all. I watch all kinds of movies. Those stories do have issues and are problematic in some ways, but I feel like when we do try to show like a different spectrum, then we judge that as well.
Yeah.
But that's because everything, the gatekeepers are white. So like in publishing and in these films, and so our feeling of what is right is what can get through the door, which is determined by them. It's very colonizing of our art, because really the answer to what Margaret was saying is we can do both. We can do all. There's no limits. There's because even if there have been a million slave movies, there's a million slave stories that were never told.
Have never been told.
Were never talked about. And there's current stuff going on. And so we need as many of us pursuing and telling these stories as humanly possible. When Shonda Rhimes was getting bigger and the scandal and all that stuff, and everybody was like, well, why do Black women always have to be? And I was like, listen, you got a cookie, you got to be a Mary Jane, you got this, and all of them are real and all of them are valid. And why do we have to consistently argue over who's more valid? Because of who can get through the door. And I think like in publishing, they're very, very protective of white characters. Like even if you're writing Black work, how you write white characters is a determining factor in whether or not that book is going to be supported in a certain kind of way. I mean, did you find that to be true, Margaret?
Well, A Kind of Freedom, I don't think had a white character. I'm trying to remember.
It didn't.
I didn't even realize there weren't any white characters, by the way. My husband told me, there aren't any white characters. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. But I didn't even think about it. With the revision, there are 3 white women in each generation. It's another generational story, and so each generation has a white woman, and they're kind of serving the same purpose in each generation in terms of the literary intention. And I keep wondering when somebody's going to say something, because my intention definitely is to facilitate the positive relationship between white women and Black women, in the sense that I think I want to bring them along as allies as we fight white supremacy together. Okay, that's the intention. In doing that, I have to call out inappropriate behavior. So that's what a lot of what the book does is that. I have a great publisher. I have an amazing publisher who just gives me so much space and so much deference. And, nobody seems to have a problem with it. White women reading it seem to be like, that's true. That's been true. And they seem comfortable receiving it so far. Receiving that, I don't want to say indictment, but receiving that feedback. And so we'll see how it goes. But I have to tell you, A Kind of Freedom, I feel like whenever I'm talking about A Kind of Freedom, most of my audience is white women. Yeah.
What?
Okay, now listen, Margaret, I'm overloaded over here. Okay, first of all, Margaret, this is hard for me. I just want you to wait, y'all. Wait, I need a minute with Margaret. I need to face Margaret.
This is a real
good. Oh, it will be. It will be, Margaret. Margaret, listen to me. Listen to me, boo. Okay, because I'm not there, Margaret. Like where you said, I want them to come along as allies. Fresh.
Somebody has to do that work, though, Thea.
Wait, Crystal, I'm talking to Margaret right now.
Give her moment, honey. She got to get to the bottom of something.
Fresh off the, When They See Us, film. Fresh off the They Were Her Property.
Yeah.
Personally, Thea completely lacks the desire to bring along, right? So, 2016 just ripped that shit.
Oh, I know.
This is what's interesting, though. I find the same thing you're talking about. The more Black I get in what I'm talking about on my social media, the more white women followers I have. And I'm like, I feel like, what was that singer? How Did You Get Here?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Deborah Cox. Deborah Cox, honey.
How did you get here?
Uh-huh.
I'm like talking to Black women specifically. And I don't know what that's about. We have talked about the mammy syndrome.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time figuring out, were you around me because of what I naturally give off that maybe you don't naturally give off, that like you're like, I get it. But I have a really hard time because I feel like it's like ingrained to find comfort, strength, and these things through proximity to Black women.
Yeah.
Right? As opposed to like really, really being not an ally, but an accomplice, putting your your livelihood, your job, your husband, your son on the line for my Black body. So please talk to me, Margaret, about this part of the journey.
First of all, this is my aspiration. I'm not there yet completely. I'm not there yet. This is my aspiration. And I almost feel like it's a calling for my life because I've married a white man, and it's kind of forced me into relationships that I wouldn't have been in. I just wouldn't have been on my own. I don't have those relationships. So, but now I have, I have family members who are white women that are white women. And the issues that I have with white women come up at a smaller level in my relationships with the women in my family, because I read into things, and also because things are there.
Things are there because things are
they are. They are. And so they're charged relationships, even though they're family, and even though the other person probably doesn't know they're charged.
Right.
But they are charged. And so I feel like that's been a big part of my healing process, is navigating these particular relationships in my family. And I find that the more that I heal those, the more able I am to, I guess what I want, I'll just say what I want. What I want is to be in a room full of white women, or to go to my kids' preschool and there are white women there, and to not be.
That's scary already. Yeah. That part's scary.
That part terrified me.
And to feel like I don't have to be also navigating the weight of history as I'm dealing with them about a simple preschool matter. But I can never have a relationship that's free of that. And so I guess what I want for myself is to be able to go into these environments. I'm always going to understand the history, but not have it anger me in the moment. I need to have a peaceful life. So that's for me. That's for us. Yeah. Being able to be in those environments without having them affect my peace.
Yeah. And the and the fact that it's not just historical, it's
of course.
And so it's almost like every time I'm getting ready to open that up, another one of y'all police calling, snitching. I think it's very interesting to write about it. That's why I was asking about like white characters and stuff like that, because I think like it is a reality. There's also this space right now where like the white definition of Black has opened up. So Black in America used to refer to, Black Americans who were, either already here or enslaved here, or whatever the case may be. And now that it's more of a global acceptance of the word Black, there's this way of using diasporic Blackness to like say, oh, we checked that box on this particular story of Blackness, and avoid telling the stories that are born right here by bringing in a story that was not born on this land, but being able to check the Black box, And so I think that creates another interesting dynamic within the publishing world. I feel like your story getting through is extremely
I do too.
rare. I immediately looked at your publisher because I was like, who's letting this stuff through the door? Because I know they're not. I know so many of them are not. And like when we get in, it's really a squeaker to tell a Black American grown here story, and to do it without white sympathy is like incredibly difficult. So can you talk about your like publishing journey? I'm like,
I have to say, it's Counterpoint. How did I find Counterpoint? I found Counterpoint through my sister-in-law, who used to work for them. She introduced me to the editor, Jack, and his wife.
So did you have an agent before you?
I did. I had an agent in 2016 for a different book. I was writing a book about a Black girl who goes to the Dominican Republic. She's from New Orleans. She goes to the Dominican Republic, and she's trying to help this struggling community, but she gets re-triggered by all the colorism stuff, and she ends up...
I was going to say, I bet that was interesting.
Right? So she ends up harming the community before she leaves. So I couldn't get that book published. I worked on it for 10 years, and nobody wanted that book. Okay. So...
Worked on it for 10 years?
Yeah.
Please counsel me through that. Please counsel me through that.
I don't think it was the best book, but you see, there are all kinds of books out there.
Girl, don't get me started. Basic. That's the other thing when you were talking about like what stories to put out, and that Black people have to choose like, oh, this has to be the best. Every book has to be Toni Morrison. There's so much white trash.
Absolutely.
There's so much white trash out there. And I'm like, they don't ever have to decide. Ever, like what trash gets through or not.
But you had an agent.
Okay, so I had an agent
with this other book
in 2014, and she couldn't sell the book, and she was kind of like, what's the expression? She was just messing around with the whole situation. Like, she wasn't actually ever gonna publish that book. And I realized that in like 2015, I think, at the end of the year, I realized this lady's never gonna publish this book. So I parted ways with her, and I didn't have an agent. I really was back to square one, even though I've been working on it for 5 years at that point, full time. But then I met this editor through my sister-in-law and his wife was running this year-long narrative project where you write with her. You give her 30 pages a month, and she edits and sends them back. And the idea is at the end of the year, you have a book. So I did that with her. I would say by the third month, she was like, this is really good. I want to give it to my husband, who's my publisher now. And I just finished it. I was like, okay, she's going to give it to her publisher, because I've been working for 10 years with no profit, no fruit, right? So I was like, if she's going to finish, if she's going to give it to her publisher, let me just finish it. So I finished it in like 4 months and gave it to her. She gave it to her husband, and then I did some edits with him, and that was it. But I feel like, this was kind of a gift, because for 10 years I was seriously writing like it was my job, but there was nothing coming out of it.
Were you working another job while you were doing that writing as well?
For some of it, I was working as a lawyer for some of it, and then when I had the twins, I was just writing. My firm went bankrupt, and they gave us this year-long, basically, severance package, and that's when I started doing it full time. But I mean, that was the book that never got published. Yeah.
Wow.
Girl, I can't talk about it right now. I just can't talk about it. It's too real. It's too real. I'm triggered.
I'm triggered. Oh, that might just be your drawer book, the book in the drawer. And I was like, no, it's not my book in the drawer. Why would I spend 10 years on a book in the drawer?
On a book in the drawer. Like, literally, I'm triggered. I'm so triggered right now.
Okay, so let's try to help Thea through her trigger. So when you had the kids, let's talk about that. So when were you writing? Because you had twins. So when would you find time to write? What was your creative energy like, during that time?
I love to talk about this, because the funny thing that happened was, when I had the twins, I was really reluctant to get pregnant, because I was like, my book's not out. When I have these kids, it's never going to happen if I don't do it now. And then it was really funny. Once I had the kids, it's like everything changed. Everything changed. I mean, I had been spending so much time and energy on that book, but it wasn't grounded energy, and it wasn't coming from a good place. And so when I had the kids, I think I let a lot of the stuff that was guiding me was like not healthy. It was like, I have something to prove because I left my job, and everybody else is now, heading into being a partner or in-house. And I don't have anything to show for leaving my job. And I had all that anxiety and all that like comparison stuff.
Comparison kills joy.
Yeah.
Comparison kills joy.
It does.
It was like holding back the level of the work. Once I had my kids, I was like, you know what? If I never get published, it's fine. I enjoy it as a hobby. And you know what? If that's all it ever is, at least I can say I have this hobby that I love. And, maybe I have to go back to work doing something that I don't love as much, but at least I have this hobby. I really got to that place because I was like, my kids gave me so much joy. I didn't need it anymore. I didn't have something to prove anymore. I was just like, you know what? It just got me to a higher place spiritually, I think. Thea, I've been admiring you so much. It was like this part was open, and so now I just have to type, because I'm just writing down what they're telling me.
The portal.
I'm downloading. Okay, that's what happened.
We always talk about our children, not looking at them as barriers, because I did that for a long time. Like, I would tell my kids, like,
why you won't let me be great?
I got to see. Well, mommy, your belly. Yeah, you know why this belly is the way it is? Yeah. Because they had to cut me open and pull from my stomach because you didn't want to come. Like, it was this whole story, like, rooted in pain. And my recovery was much longer, so I couldn't get back on the good foot and get into my artistry the way that I had. Like, it was this, like, whole thing rooted in pain and blame. And one of our listeners asked, like, well, if you see your children as a barrier, how does that impact your relationship? And I was like, ooh.
Is that what I've been
And so it really, like, I love what you're saying, because it's so many of us see our children as obstacles and as barriers, and you saw your children as a source of inspiration, and that helped you heal, so much, and open you up, and you were able to, like you said, download.
Yeah, I think that's super accurate in general. Like, when we talked about that before, like Beyonce's shift after her children. Like, for me, that shift was social political, right? Like, I definitely became a more social political aware person after I had my children. So whenever I see people Black women in particular have children, I'm like, oh, we got to get ready for the shift. And I think it's good that we talk about it that way because, again, you have opened your sacral chakra, literally opened it. So anything you wish to manifest at that moment is like so possible, like more possible than probably at many other points in your life. I mean, orgasms also could do that too. But my point is like the children. Yeah. So this is, if we don't talk about it in this way, we don't know that this is like, it is a portal that opened and you can capitalize off of that portal being open. You can optimize that moment as opposed to viewing it as a shutting down.
And I wasn't allowing that to happen because I was viewing motherhood through a patriarchal lens and like my life is supposed to stop and center these children, and it's not like it's not a creative opening. And I was also afraid to allow the shift to happen. Like, who am I going to be, when this shift happens? And mine wasn't socio-political because I was already there, but mine was about love and healing, which is what I needed. You know what I'm saying? Like I had to expand in that area in terms of being my ability to love, because I was really resistant to healing because I felt like as an artist, your pain, like you said, that 10 years. Like during that 10 years, I would have been like, this is going to be my
true Hollywood story.
My true Hollywood story. Like, I always say, we don't like a happy Mary J. Blige. We don't like a Thin Luther. We like that pain. And so I thought like, I needed this pain. I need this pain to propel my creativity. And so if I allow this healing shift to happen, what am I going to write about? Who am I going to be as an artist without the pain? And it just
without the pain. I think the other thing to what you're saying, Margaret, too, is I had a talk with Akilah S. Richards yesterday, who I absolutely adore, a Fair the Free Child podcast. And we were talking about how her decision to do self-directed education with her children opened the family up to this like nomadic lifestyle and created this space of having to be available to things, having to be available to the conversations that you wouldn't have otherwise had, the little small interactions, the coincidences, the web of things that kind of connects this thing to this thing. And we're always so busy trying to design the web that we're not available to just let the web unfold before us. And I think what happens with children, and that we try to fight a lot of the time. One, we've had this debate before on here, Margaret. You can join in, and Donna as well. That our children choose us, and that they choose us because really they can see from their standpoint spiritually what we need better than we can, right? And so when they choose us, they come bearing gifts that we think like, oh, it's about what we're going to give to them. And it's really like, no, I saw you was in a spot. So I thought you could use a little bit of X, Y, and Z, right? And so being open to that part of the process, but also then they also make you have to be available because they have no sense of time. They have no sense of schedule. They have no sense of these parameters. And so you literally have to learn to be available again. And that, I think, is the part that we're so resistant to. We think we're just going to bounce back and control life the way we do, design the web, and they have completely shred the web.
Yeah, exactly. I think having the twins, having it be two of them, first of all, I think I have a spiritual connection with those particular kids.
Did it change your art? Did it change your art at all, having kids and especially twins?
You know what? I think it was just that it purified it because it was really coming from it was coming from the spirit. So it wasn't me tampering with it. Like a teacher told me one time, I can see your fingerprints all over this. And he didn't mean it as a compliment. It was me. And whereas it's really best if it's another voice coming through.
Yes.
And I think that's what happened when I had the kids. I was able to access that voice.
Yeah,
I love this.
That's beautiful. You could feel your crown open.
The crown chakra. This lady told me this.
It's your crown chakra.
She said, your crown chakra is very open. Do you find that you can just download a lot of stories? And I said, yeah, actually. I did. Is that why? Okay, cool. Because it was not like that before.
Do you have to have twins to get that though? Like,
you know what?
No, I don't think so.
There's another way. But what it also means, Margaret, is not just your crown had to be open. Something like having your children causes that whole area to expand up. It's like the line of illumination, right? To go up. But then when you do that, you also break all the blockages going up, which means that you can, when you download, things can come through the line of manifestation. So by the children coming through and breaking those locks, you then can also bring things through the other way. And that's what we want, ideally, all the time, is to have these two channels moving, the current of manifestation and the current of illumination to be flowing.
That's powerful. I feel like this is blessing some listeners out there who are thinking, I was on this path until I had kids and now everything's thrown off. One of the our themes for Black Mama Creative Week is motherhood is not the graveyard of your dreams, right? Right. And so, Margaret, now you've illuminated this point in saying what motherhood might be is the fire that purifies that dream.
Oh, yes.
What?
Yeah.
What?
If you
Unless
allow
it
it
come
to
through
change,
differently.
if you're
If you allow it to.
letting it change.
I really believe that. And like my third child, Miles, he so I got the publishing deal September 2016. I became pregnant with Miles July 2016. Got the publishing deal September 2016. Once I got pregnant with Miles, it was just the pregnancy. Like once Miles was traveling with me everywhere, everything worked out for me with regard to my work. I don't know what kind of spirit Miles is, but it was like he accelerated something or he lifted my frequency. I don't know what it is, but once he got attached to me, everything was smooth sailing. And they would have these milestones like lined up with his milestones. It's hard to remember them now, but I remember I was very into tracking them. It was like, you know, we found out he was a boy and oh, I got the galley the same day, you know, that kind of stuff. I mean, this morning, 2 of them are in camp right now. It's like, okay, you have to get ready to go earlier because I have to do this interview. And one of them just woke up in a bad mood. I didn't handle it in the best way. I didn't. And I'm still kind of like, oh, I wish I had more patience. But that's still in my head this morning. They get on my nerve. I mean, they're the children. And
it's true.
You know, of course, I could work quicker if I didn't have them. I know that.
But maybe working quicker is not the goal.
Donna, did you have a question? What were you going to say?
Well, and this might be a topic for a different time, but I'm curious about the thought of the spirit selecting you as the mother to be, or you know what I mean?
Thank you, Donna. Be curious about that.
Years ago, my dad, like our relationship is fine now, but there was a time where I felt like he wasn't trying to make sure that we had that relationship after my parents divorced. And he was like, you chose to be here or something like that. And I didn't understand what that meant, that I chose to be here. I'm like, no, you and mom did things and then I changed here, right? You know? And so and I had a friend who mentioned the same kind of thing, that the children's spirit chooses the parents. And then now y'all are saying it again. And I'm like, this is just bringing that up, is like, how does that happen?
And how do you reconcile it?
I don't believe that because I don't want
Crystal
to be
doesn't
accountable
accept that. She
for
doesn't accept
that. I feel like it's a lot of other things that I have to be accountable for, and I don't want to be accountable for choosing my parent. I feel like, no, y'all chose each other, and they should be accountable to that.
So it depends on your spiritual orientation, right? Like when we look at Afro spirituality, elders and children are the wisest because they're the closest to the spirit world, right? So if you think about when you're your wisest, it's before you take on this form, right? And so that leads the understanding that in your non-formed state here, you would have the most consciousness about what you want to do with here. And that's why I think it's tough. It's tough for people in different ways to think about it that way, because they're like, well, why would I choose abusive parents? Or why would I choose a alcoholic parent, or whatever the case may be? And really, there's a couple explanations for that. One, there are some things we only learn through really hard shit. And some of the most empathetic, dedicated people come through the harshest circumstances. They learn things about empathy and about compassion and the depth of humanity through these difficult things. I mean, I've seen some of the most beautiful people survive the harshest traumas. And that's amazing to me, to watch light grow in darkness, but we see it all the time in my work. But the other part to that is also that sometimes they come to help us. And I think what can cause friction is if this spirit has come to help this parent and this parent doesn't accept the help, then this thing that can create a lot of attention, right? Because like I came to help you out. Like I I don't consciously know that now that I'm here, but like on some level, I feel like you're rejecting the help that I came to give.
Yeah, you're
And
resisting who I am.
at the end of the day, that parent still has free will and choice to accept that help, but they don't understand. So there's a deeper rejection at play there when the child doesn't feel like the parent is not just like, as my parent. Really, I came here to do something for you, and that can also be a part of the journey too. It's like, okay, you thought, part of you coming here was to do something for this person, but it radiates beyond that person. I was telling somebody the other day, like, say I came to help my mother and my mother doesn't want my help. Let's just say, for instance, that's the situation. Well, again, if you think about it through an Afro-spiritual lens, mother, that's not just one person to you. That's the women in the village are your iyas, are your mothers. So you came to help your mother, but you're thinking specifically about this person when really there's 5 women next to you that you're helping, you're healing, you're working with, right? So it's also, we have a very colonized view and limited view of what it means to have a parent, right? We're very attached to this very Western way of these 2-parent system, when really we had a whole village of people who considered themselves our parents, right? So there's also like a lot of deprogramming around the child-parent dynamic, and there's this whole beautiful way of being able to really pull so much juicy gifts, like the kind Margaret's talking about, right? From these relationships. Like if we just allow them to give us what they came to give us.
Dia is 1000% right when it comes to my children.
Oh,
but
here we
when
go.
it comes to me and my parents, I don't agree. But when it comes to me and my children, I'm 1000% on board with everything that she has. I'm colonized with my parents and me. I'm decolonized. Since this whole thing, I've told my children, you chose me. So you got to figure out what you're supposed to be giving up here. What are our lessons here?
I think that's beautiful. I'm gonna marinate on that for quite a while.
Are you gonna marinate on it?
Listen, I'm coming around to the children choosing you because I don't expect to be pregnant right now. Ooh. Clearly, the universe is working to bring this person.
I'm hoping that don't happen to me. I accept it. I don't want that to happen to me. I accept. I don't want to have to get pregnant to prove that theory. I accept. 1000%.
The universe is orchestrating something. This person is going to bring something to our family that's not here, and I believe that it's necessary in this point. Yeah, it is amazing because I'm old.
How far along are you?
Oh, she's far. Honey. She's far. She's about to pop. She do.
But when this episode drops, I'm probably in the hospital. It's close.
Oh
it's close.
My gosh, I'm so happy for you though. So you'll both have 4.
You.
So the 2 of you will have 4.
Yeah, we'll have 4.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yes.
I have a quick question for you about none of your characters being white, and you never even thought about that. Toni Morrison talked about this as well, like writing just being Black, like not explaining the Blackness, not justifying the Blackness, but like the Blackness just is. I think sometimes it's harder to do in our writing, especially because the publishing world is, dominated by white gatekeepers. And so when you say that it didn't even dawn on you that you didn't have any white characters, that it wasn't intentional or unintentional, like, do you allow your characters to just be, or do you create characters for certain intentions?
That's a really good question. Yeah. Okay. Well, with a kind of freedom, the character of TC and the character of Evelyn, those 2 characters were they came to me. I didn't have to do anything. With the Jackie character, I did have to create a storyline. The whole the crack epidemic piece of that was intentional. I wanted to show that era, and I needed to figure out how I was going to show it through characters and through a story. So I did plot that. But in terms of the not having the white characters in there, I think it comes down to I don't have a lot of white characters in my life.
Yeah.
I have my husband and I have his people, and I love them, and I don't really have any. I just don't. And so I think it's just my experience. Now with the Revisioners, there are 3 white women in the book. They're major characters. The book is about the relationship.
I can't wait to read that book.
I wanted to reach out to you guys actually to have you look at it, because I was like, I really need their guidance. There's all this spirituality and Afro spirituality.
You can always reach
and
out.
also there's all the women are either midwives or doulas, the Black women in the book. So I was like, I have to reach out to them. And then I just ran out of time and didn't do it. But I would love to send you guys copies.
Oh,
Yes.
We are accepting of advanced copies always. Always.
I love it. I cannot wait to read that. It sounds so
Can you send
good.
4 so we can get Donna one as well?
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
That's so
Yay.
awesome. I can't wait.
I love that they're doulas and midwives. We were just talking about how, like, whenever we talk about doulas and midwives, it's always like from a historical perspective.
Yeah, and so there's a woman in 1924 who's an older woman. She's a midwife. Her mother was a midwife in 1855, and then their descendants, many generations later, are doulas. In the present time. I know. I wish I had. I'm gonna let you guys read it, and you let me know if you haven't thought.
I can't wait. I can't wait. So how do you balance now that like okay, you can step into the fullness of your Black creativeness, right? How do you balance that with motherhood? Because there's logistics there, right? Like, what does the support system look like? What is your time and schedule? Like, just the nuts and bolts of it. Because there's like the fun, lofty piece, but we like to discuss, Crystal and Nakisha and I, the logistics of like goal setting.
Exactly.
Like, how do we discipline ourselves?
By we, she means her. We don't discuss that
Look
much.
at Crystal's face.
I am the executive producer
She's a
of this
disciplined one.
podcast. And so I feel as though I should at times be exempt from not reaching my deadlines when it comes to writing.
Oh.
Nakisha is having a baby. I feel like she should be exempt.
This was pre-baby.
But the baby knew that the baby was coming. So the baby was talking to her.
Look how far we got to reach, Margaret. When we get to the discipline question, look how far we got to reach.
Yeah, but what are the legit? Yeah,
because there is a science to this. Yeah.
Well, so when I was working on A Kind of Freedom, I had somebody coming in like 15 hours a week to watch the babies, and other than that, I was doing it when they were napping or whatever. But what I was doing was like, if I had to go to the grocery store, that was their activity. Like the kids had to come with me to do everything that wasn't my writing. So when I had those 3 hours a day, I truly just sat there and wrote. And at that time, all I could afford was the 15 hours a week. And then as I got, as the book came out and I was like, okay, I had more to work with. I still didn't want to. It's funny. I was limiting myself. I had more to work with financially, but I was like, this is a real job. I should be able to do both. I should, the kids were in school until 12. I was like, I should be able to do both. And I still didn't want to get myself that extra childcare time. And it was my husband. My husband kept being like, the more childcare time we have, the more successful you're going to be. He kept saying that. And he had to like drill that in my head because I didn't feel like I deserved, like if I were like a lawyer or something like real, you obviously would have somebody taking care of your kids. But I felt like I should be able to do it when they're napping. I should be able to do it when my husband gets home. I worked a lot on the weekends. And then I just decided, I just kind of was like, I'm going to pay for more childcare. And it did definitely speed things up. I was able to be more efficient.
I love that. So that's like dedicating time and resources.
Right. And taking it seriously.
Take it seriously instead of squeezing it in around your life wherever you can.
I hear you. Seriously, it started taking itself seriously. It was like almost immediately I saw the fruit of that decision. It was interesting. I was holding myself back.
But let me tell you, what you just shared was so important because I've, in the last like year in trying to get the Blackest writing I can possibly muster out of me, I've white people.
Oh yeah.
Because they point out to me, oh, you should be getting that. Oh, you should. The reason I'm off right now for summer is because my white colleague was like, you could be off during summer and da-da-da-da. And so it's really interesting because our relationship to things, everything is so deeply personal. You're not very good at the objective piece because everything we feel, we're feelers. And so we're so in stuff and they're good at being out that they can like look and be like, you don't have to be giving all of that. And I think the biggest barrier for me in my writing, to be honest, has been learning to just trust that people will get what I'm saying because Black women are questioned so much. And that shows up in the writing, right? You questioning, you feel like you have to over-explain. And it's a really hard thing to remove from your psyche when it's like your reality in the outside world. This is where I feel the allies thing works out, right? Like, it's like, okay, you show me where I'm not living my best life and I could be, and it's okay to.
I didn't think about it like that.
And we're so rooted in struggle. Like we feel like if we're not
Right.
overworking ourselves, then whatever success we get, well, we feel like we're not going to get that.
It's
and
not
we're
earned.
getting it. It's not
Exactly.
earned, you know,
Exactly.
or deserved.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Like, that's exactly right. I remember when I first had the twins, I was like, my grandmother had 7 kids. I shouldn't have to have it.
And it's like that. It's like, don't make that the standard. Don't make that the standard. God, no.
Isn't that funny? And I didn't want any help. I mean, and that's how we make ourselves sick, God forbid. You know, it's like,
girl,
it's crazy. And you're right. You have to, I didn't think about it like that, but I had to have somebody who didn't have that experience tell me.
Who had some privilege to say, listen, it's so hard though to just undo this like conditioning. And of course, our value was rooted in what we produced.
Oh my God.
If we weren't busy, we were lazy, we weren't moving. And so just the idea of learning how to, like, again, be available for spirit. And this is amazing. And this is why I feel like on some level intrinsically, like sometimes I feel like white supremacy knows us better than we know ourselves, because they know when we're still and that spirit can come through, things like a kind of freedom come out. And so they're not trying to have that all the time, all over the place. So we are just kept like busy like ants, you know, because the moment we feel like all of that ancestral understanding just locks back in. It's like we have to keep moving to avoid it because it's always there waiting for us, you know. Wow. So no, I think that's like really critical. We really have to overcome a lot of stuff to do what you're doing right now.
It was definitely a spiritual journey more than anything else. And even like as I continued, I understand that the blocks that I'll have, if any, to success in the future will be spiritual.
Oh, Margaret, we just became so close, Margaret. We're just so... But that goes back to the New Orleans conversation. I think that the spirituality is what makes New Orleans so different. When we try to put our finger on it, we absolutely can. Afro spirituality was allowed to live and thrive in New Orleans. And so I think that that's why it feels the way it feels, like so mystical and so powerful and so possibility and so much just like that feeling of like things are what they are, and that acceptance as opposed to like this force that we try to put on life. There's not a forceful energy in New Orleans. Like everything's flowing and everything is flowing with each other. Like there's an understanding of alignment and all that stuff without even consciously talking about it. It's just there.
We might need to go on a writer's retreat to New Orleans. We
may
need
to.
I would love something together on this. That would be amazing. Okay, but we have to have some goal. We can't just be out in New Orleans.
Can't just be out there for beignets
down here talking about I'm going to be inspired. Listen, inspire your ass in this seat and give me 5 pages. I'm telling you what'll happen, Margaret. They'll be like, but I'll write when I get back.
No, it's a writer's retreat. I'm writing something.
But look how Nikisha said something and tucked her lips in. See, there's little cues that you got to watch. I'm gonna write something. It could be an email for all I know.
Well, Margaret, so when is the revisioners due out? Can we order it, pre-order, all of that stuff? Yeah.
Oh, thank you for asking. It's out November 5th, and I understand that pre-orders are extremely important.
Okay. Yeah, let's get them
pre-order. That would be amazing. You can pre-order from indiebound.org. If you want to support independent bookstores, you can pre-order from Barnes & Noble. And of course, you can pre-order from Amazon. But I guess pre-orders determine the trajectory of the book throughout its lifespan, which I actually am just now realizing the extent of. I didn't know how important pre-orders were with Kind of Freedom. I was just like, oh, when people buy them, they buy them. It doesn't matter when they buy them. But I guess pre-orders are really important. So I'm trying to like pump and promote the pre-order thing lately.
Yeah.
We'll have all that information and the link in the show notes. And then when we get the book, we'll read it and maybe, do like a live review or.
Oh, that would be so great. I'll get your address. I'll email you for your address.
Let's do it.
Yeah, that would be so great. I love that idea. No, this was great. I mean, like, I feel fan.
I feel the same way. It was so restorative. I wish I could talk to you guys you do it every month or?
Oh gosh, that's another thing about goals.
It's about twice monthly. It's about twice monthly we get together.
Wow. I listened to it on my own and I've loved it. So Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
thank
so
you.
glad.
I was so excited when you
Yes.
guys
Thank you.
invited
We're fans of yours, so it's mutual.
me. Oh.
Totally mutual.
Yes.
We're big fans.
Margaret, do you have any social media that you would like to share?
Twitter is at mwilkers13. And
Okay.
Facebook is Margaret Wilkerson Sexton.
Well, thank
you
you.
guys.
We're
It's so
so
good to talk to you. I look forward to the next time.
Okay. All right.
Donna, how'd you feel being along for the ride?
Good. I love this. It's so much fun to like watch you guys in action and just kind of be a part of it, really.
Oh, well, thank you, Donna, so much for joining us. We hope that you enjoyed seeing some of the behind the scenes. Of what we hope you learned some
Craziness.
stuff about what we do. Donna, is there anything that you want to promote that you want to promote?
Oh, can I link my Instagram, I guess, and my blog?
Absolutely.
Oh my God. Okay. Okay, so I have my blog is donnajanine.com, and I just talk about a bunch of different things like motherhood and parenting and life things, racial things, all the stuff. And my Instagram is the same as at Donna Janine. So, and I have a Facebook page, Donna Janine.
Because you know, Black folks were creative. Can you spell Janine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's Janeen. So
See,
Donna
there could have been
Janine.
it. There could have been NINE. There could have been it. Like there just could have been so many versions.
So y'all follow Donna Janine. We will make sure we link that in our show notes as well, so you can see how to spell that. Follow us.
I want to remind something too. Can I do that?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I have IO consults available now.
Yeah.
I'm doing one-on-one consults, joy consults. So if you're stuck spiritually, emotionally, sexually, if you're feeling like your daily life does not have any joy in it, or you can't find joy in it, then I would love to work with you. I'm particularly working with women of color, and I'm super excited. So it's all able to be booked through my website.
And Thea, can those consults happen virtually, or do they only have to happen in person?
I'm so glad you asked that. They do happen virtually using Zoom, and they're recorded so that you get to take a copy of it yourself and like look at your own wisdom, your own growth, your own process. And it's really, really a wonderful experience. I'm really excited.
Also, Thea, is there a one session option, or do I have to book multiple sessions?
Well, I'm also glad you asked that. There is a one session option, and then we can discuss packages if you would like to continue with multiple sessions, which you probably will.
Thea, if I'm not ready to take on a one-on-one session with you, are there other options to doing other work?
Absolutely. There's several webinars and courses on Black Girl Mixtape or BGM Institute that you can find if you're not ready to take that step into the one-on-one calls.
You're going to maintain your Patreon page? You're going to maintain your Patreon?
Are there ways that we can support you and invest in your work?
I'm really learning from my sisters right now on how to do this right. Thank God. Love lift us up where we belong. Don't edit out my singing. Okay. Yes, I have a Patreon page. I have webinars available. I have courses available. I have the IO consults available. We have Them Black Mamas podcast available. We have All Heart podcast available. We're accessible in so many ways. So
yeah, I saw that you did a performance in Los Angeles of your poetry. Is there a place where I can read some of your poetry or a collection of your work?
There is a collection of my work that I totally forgot to plug. Thank you so much. Murmurs of a Mad Woman. It is available on Amazon as we speak. Thank you. Did I get them all, Crystal? Thank you.
Google her, y'all. Just Google her.
Keisha, I'm a mom who's struggling with breastfeeding, and I also want to be a lactation consultant. Can you give me some tips or work that you have out there that I can invest in?
Sure. You can. If you're in the Los Angeles area, you can book a consult in person through lionesslactation.com.
Love it.
If you are interested in becoming an IBCLC, please follow on any social media outlet, Nikki and Nikki Lactation Career Consultants, NIKKI and NIKKI. That is a colleague of mine helping you to enter the field. Otherwise, please follow NikishaKillings.com for updates on lots of sightings and opportunities to hear me speak and present my work.
Do you know about any breastfeeding support groups in South Los Angeles?
I do. Lioness Lactation presents Cubs Cafe every first Sunday of the month. Please make sure and join us. Again, we post the location and time, but every first Sunday at 2:30 in the Public Health Department building next to MLK Hospital. You can find us there.
I'm a doula and I want to have training, but I also need training to help my clients with breastfeeding. Do you know of any webinars or doula trainings?
So funny you should ask. Dim Black Mamas and Nikisha Killings are hosting a doula training in Los Angeles at the end of this year. Come through in November. We're bringing out the amazing Sister Midwife Productions, Nicole Deggins, who is phenomenal, and she teaches from a lens of Black motherhood, and she's from New Orleans, boo. She's coming all the way from New Orleans.
We got another one.
Yes, to really help us through learning how to be a birth supporter. Even if you are already one, this training will give you lots of insight and perspective from helping Black women. So come through, or Black birthing people.
Nikisha, are there any webinars that can teach me how to have a better bedside manner with mothers who want to breastfeed?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
you did do one, didn't you?
You did a webinar.
I thought you did.
Yes.
You went for it,
Yes,
so I appreciate that.
My talk on breastside manners no longer available through Google. That conference is ended.
Okay.
I do have one out right now through the Michigan Breastfeeding Network that is on implicit bias in birthing and breastfeeding.
Love
Check me
it.
out. That's
I
free.
think I have a tinge bit of racism in me, and I need
a tinge, just a tinge.
And I need to learn about how to serve my clients and not be biased. Are there any webinars that you can recommend?
Yeah.
You need to
Yes, there is one.
Yes, there are many. I recommend my own. That's available now on the internet through the Michigan Breastfeeding Network, called "What You Don't Know Can Hurt You and Your Patient."
Oh yes, title. Come through title. Come through title.
Implicit bias. Yes.
So
Check it out. That's all I got now. Now listen, wait. Crystal,
Yes.
share with us where the people can find you and your work, please.
I don't have any workout at this time.